What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
UFC 237 from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, just happened last Saturday, and I was way off on a lot of my picks. Brazilians, I mean, in general, did really bad in this card. There was a lot of Brazilian losses, but I think that's what made the main event so much better for the home crowd. The main event being Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade for the women's strawweight division. Rose beat Jędrzejczyk, and then defended her belt again in the rematch against Jędrzejczyk. And this was her second defense of the belt. I thought Rose was going to win. She was very dominant in the first round, basically controlling the entire first round, damaging Aldana. Her footwork and her movement and her boxing was amazing. And Andrade just couldn't get in, couldn't really do much. But then the second round came along, and Andrade finally was able to get in and attempted, I don't know if it was in the first round, she had attempted a slam, and it didn't work. Rose kind of rolled through it, but the finishing move in the fight, Andrade slammed Rose, knocked her out, and won the belt. And the crowd went wild. The crowd went wild, and they were not happy because everybody was losing. They had just seen Anderson Silva get his leg destroyed again, not in the same way, this time more of a knee issue than his leg snapping in half. So the crowd was not very happy. Aldo lost also, which I picked Aldo. I picked Alves. Alves lost. But it was a fun night of fights. Freaking Nogueira lost. Like all the like kind of legends lost in a way. Although the Guida versus Penn fight, Guida won that one. Penn just gassed out as he does when he's taken into more and more rounds. But BJ Penn looked better than he's looked in I don't know. Has it been a decade since BJ Penn has won a fight? Let me see. I'm going to look this up real quick. But the Anderson Silva fight against Kanene, that was the only one I had picked correctly. I picked Kanene. I am a fan of Kanene. He did not look that great when he came in at heavyweight, but now at middleweight, especially against Anderson. I mean, Anderson's just old, but those leg kicks were landing, and he was starting to get touched. Anderson was. So, I prefer. Okay, BJ Penn has not won a fight since fighting Matt Hughes in 2010. It's been November of 2010. It's been almost 9 years since BJ Penn. He went to a draw with John Fitch in February of 2011. But he's lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 losses in a row. That's ridiculous. That's the power of being BJ Penn in the UFC, is that they want you to stay there. They don't want you. They don't want you going to Bellator. Although that I would not be surprised if that happens. Bellator tends to be the retirement kind of option for a lot of fighters. But Penn looked good. He looked good, and he hasn't looked good in forever. Aside from his cardio not holding up, he didn't look like he was pretending to give a shit. Like, he seemed like he actually gave a shit and trained and was ready. He wasn't just like standing. Oh my God, his fight against I don't know, BJ Penn. I hope he retires. Clay Guida started to get tired himself, but Guida was Guida in that fight. Ryan Spann versus Nogueira. Spann looked great. I'm loving the new blood at the weight class. Aldana versus Correa. I had picked another fight, Trinaldo, that I guess he got pulled at weigh-in, so that fight didn't happen. But Aldana versus Correa. Aldana looked amazing. Correa, I don't know why she's still in the UFC. She hasn't looked good in many. She looks exactly the same as she did when she was fighting. I mean, back when she was on a run before her title shot, she put together a few wins, but she hasn't grown at all. And Volkanovski looked great. against Aldo. Staropoli looked great. These are like huge losses. But at least going into the next fight these guys are in, I'm going to remember. And Rose, I don't know if she's going to retire. I hope she doesn't. I hope she fights. I love Rose. She's amazing. She was winning that fight. Just one bad decision, got slammed on her head. But a fun night overall of fights. Crazy ending from Rio de Janeiro. But moving on to next week is a fight in Rochester, New York, headlined by Kevin Lee and Rafael Dos Anjos. I'm going to make my picks for this one. And it's going to be the last card for a couple weeks, I think, until June. I think the last half of May. I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 weeks. So that'll be nice to have a little break from the fights before we get into a nice new run of fights every week. But Kevin Lee versus Dos Anjos. I got Kevin Lee. I just think he's younger. He's built for that weight class more so than Dos Anjos. Although I think Lee, they're both fighting up a weight class kind of. But Lee is, I don't know. I just think Lee is a little bit younger and just, I think he's going to get it. I don't know if the experience with Dos Anjos is necessarily going to help him in this one. I got Vicente Luque versus Magny. I got Luque. Another up and comer Magny. Magny's looked great, but I don't know. He's just like, I think Luque is just going to be a real force, and I think this might be a fight where we're going to see, once again, Luque win. Hopefully, if my pick's right. I got Aspen Ladd versus Eubanks. Sijara Eubanks. This is a rematch where Ladd's already gotten a win. Eubanks is fighting up at bantamweight for this one, so we'll see. She doesn't have to cut weight. Let's see if she even makes weight for this one. But in the rematch, I'm going to go with Aspen Ladd again. Even though Eubanks, they're both great, but I'm just, this is my picks. Then we have Antonio Carlos Jr., a.k.a. Shoeface. I really hope we get a lot of Shoeface actual calls in the fight, and I'll do another supercut, Shoeface supercut. You can check out. I have 2 of those so far up on YouTube, but his nickname is Shoeface. And he's fighting Ian Heinisch, and a new fighter, I think maybe from the Dana White Contender Series. But I got Shoeface. I just love Shoeface. He's on a run. He looks great. I also have Charles Oliveira against Nick Lentz. This is another rematch. I think Oliveira won in the first fight. So I'm going with Oliveira again. Oliveira's just on a run anyway. He's submitting everybody. And last but not least, I have David Ramos versus Austin Hubbard. I believe both of these guys are from the show, the Dana White show. But I'm just going to pick Davi Ramos just because he has a Wikipedia page, and that's it. But it's going to be a fun card. A bunch of other fights on there. Ed Herman, Patrick Cummins looks good. Danny Roberts, Zach Cummings. There's a bunch of good fights on that one, so I'm looking forward to it. From Rochester, New York, UFC Kevin Lee versus Rafael Dos Anjos. So we'll see where that ends up. Should be a fun fight. Fun cards from Brazil. But that's it for this episode. New episodes of this show come out daily. Subscribe on IGTV and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder. InspiredDisorder.com for all of my original artwork. Go buy some paintings now. At Ray Taylor for me on all social media. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!